Part 1. The warning. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with the sound of hundreds of different voices. Beings from across the galaxy sat in their assigned seats, their bodies as different as the worlds they came from, had scales. Others had fur, some breathed oxygen, others needed special masks. But today, they were all here for the same reason, to hear a warning that could change everything. Ambassador Krell stood at the center of the hall. He was tall, even by Vorthon standards, with dark blue skin and 4 arms that usually moved with confidence. But not today. Today, his hands shook slightly as he looked out at the crowd of delegates. The Vorthon Empire had ruled half the galaxy for over 3,000 years, as they were known as the strongest military force in known space. Their ships were the fastest, their weapons the most powerful, and their soldiers the most feared. If someone from the Vorthon Empire was scared, then everyone should be worried. Friends and fellow beings, Krell began, his deep voice carrying across the silent hall. I stand before you today not as a conqueror or a diplomat, but as someone who has seen something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. A small creature with 6 eyes leaned forward in its seat. This was Delegate Nyx from the Hegemony, a collection of small worlds that usually stayed out of galactic politics. What could possibly frighten the mighty Vorthons? Nyx asked, its voice high and curious. Krell pressed a button on his control device. A large hologram appeared above the hall, showing a small blue and green planet spinning slowly in space. It looked peaceful, with white clouds swirling over green continents and blue oceans. This is Earth, Krell said. It is home to a species called humans. 3 years ago, we made contact with them for the first time. Several delegates laughed, quietly. The outer rim of the galaxy was known for having primitive species that had just learned to travel between stars. Most of them were easily conquered or convinced to join larger empires. What could be so special about these humans? Like many of you, we thought they were just another weak species, ready to be added to our empire, Krell continued. Their technology seemed average. Their ships were smaller than ours. Their weapons looked basic. We saw easy targets and valuable resources. The hologram changed to show human cities. They were large and modern, but not particularly impressive compared to the great cities of other galactic civilizations. The buildings were mostly made of metal and glass, reaching up toward the sky but not as tall as the great towers on Vorthon worlds. Their cities looked soft, Krell said. No great walls or defensive shields. No massive weapon platforms or orbital fortresses. We thought they were unprepared for war because they looked peaceful. A large, bear-like delegate from the Ursine Confederacy growled softly. If they were so weak, why are you here warning us about them? Did they somehow defeat your mighty empire? Krell's 4 hands clenched into fists. They did not defeat us. In the way you might think, they did something much worse. They taught us that there are things more terrifying than losing a war. The hologram now showed space around Earth. Dozens of human ships moved in organized patterns around their planet and nearby colonies. The ships looked functional but not particularly threatening. They were clearly built for trade and exploration, rather than conquest. We sent Admiral Thane with a standard conquest fleet, Krell explained. 500 ships, including our most powerful battleships. We approached their space with the usual offer: join our empire peacefully or be conquered by force. The hall was completely quiet now. Everyone knew how these stories usually went. A primitive species would either surrender immediately or fight briefly before being overwhelmed. Either way, it would be over quickly. The humans refused our generous offer, Krell said. One of their captains, a man named James Miller, told us to leave their space peacefully. He seemed calm, almost friendly. He did not sound afraid. Several delegates made sounds of amusement. The idea of a primitive species telling the Vorthon Empire to leave was funny to most of them. Admiral Thane gave them one final chance to surrender, Krell continued. The human Captain Miller simply said that humanity would not be joining any empire. He wished us a safe journey home and suggested we avoid starting a war we did not understand. The laughter in the hall grew louder. War they did not understand. What could a primitive species possibly know about war that the Vorthons did not? Krell waited for the laughter to die down before continuing. Admiral Thane opened fire. The human ship, a small vessel called the Defiant, was destroyed in less than 5 minutes. All 200 crew members died. This was the expected outcome. The delegates nodded, waiting for Krell to explain why this normal conquest had gone wrong. But before the ship was destroyed, Krell said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, something happened that we had never seen before in 3,000 years of conquest. The hologram changed again, showing the moment when human ships throughout their entire space began broadcasting on all frequencies. Every human vessel, from massive cargo ships to tiny repair pods, transmitted the same message. They did not surrender, Krell said. They did not beg for mercy. Instead, they broadcast the names and personal information of every crew member who had died on the Defiant. Every name, every face, every detail about their families and their lives. The hall was silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. There was something in Krell's voice that made everyone pay attention. Then they added something else to their broadcast, Krell continued. A message that was sent to every human in the galaxy, on every world and every ship, in every station. The same message repeated over and over. The hologram showed the text of the message in simple, clear letters that everyone could read. We will remember. We will find you. We will hunt you. At first, we thought it was just angry words from a defeated enemy, Krell said. Empty threats from a species that had just lost their first battle against us. We proceeded with our conquest as planned. The delegates were starting to look uncomfortable. Something in Krell's tone suggested that these had not been empty threats. Conquered their colony world within a week, Krell continued. We killed or enslaved the population, as we always do. We celebrated another victory for the Empire. We reported back to High Command that the humans had been dealt with, and their space was now ours. Krell paused and looked around the hall. His eyes met those of delegates from dozens of different species, all waiting to hear what had gone wrong. What we did not know, Krell said slowly, was that we had just made the biggest mistake in the history of our empire. We had attacked a species that does not fight wars the way the rest of us do. We had attacked a species that does not conquer or defend territory. We had attacked a species that hunts. The word hunt seemed to hang in the air like a physical thing. There was something about the way Krell said it that made everyone in the hall feel cold. Within hours of our attack, Krell continued, every human in the galaxy knew the names of the 200 people who had died. More importantly, they knew the names, ranks, and personal details of every Vorthon who had participated in killing them. The bear-like delegate leaned forward. How could they possibly know such specific information so quickly? Krell's laugh was bitter and tired. That was our first clue that we had completely misunderstood what humans are capable of. We would learn much more in the months that followed. It's terrible things that still wake me up at night. The ambassador looked around the hall one more time, meeting the eyes of as many delegates as possible. I am here today to give you all a warning that could save your civilizations, Krell said. Do not attack the humans. They never stop hunting. Part 2. First contact gone wrong. Ambassador Krell touched his control device again. The hologram above the Galactic Council Hall changed to show a massive Vorthon fleet moving through space. The ships were enormous, dark metal giants with weapons that could destroy entire cities. At the front of the fleet was Admiral Thane's flagship, a ship so large it could be seen from the surface of most planets. This was our conquest fleet, Krell said to the Silent Hall. 500 ships, including 20 of our most powerful battleships. We had used similar fleets to conquer over 40 different species. It was more than enough firepower to destroy every human ship in their entire space. The hologram showed the fleet approaching the edge of human territory. Small human patrol. Ships moved to intercept them, but they looked like tiny insects compared to the massive Vorthon vessels. Admiral Thane was confident this would be over quickly, Krell continued. He had conquered primitive species before. The pattern was always the same. Show overwhelming force, make demands, accept surrender, or destroy resistance. Simple and Effective. A small human ship appeared on the hologram, moving alone toward the massive Vorthan fleet. It was called the Defiant, and it looked fragile compared to even the smallest Vorthan vessel. The ship had basic weapons and simple armor. It was clearly built for exploration, not war. Captain James Miller commanded the Defiant, Krell said. He was 42 years old, married to a woman named Lisa, with a daughter called Emma who was 16. He had been exploring space for 12 years and had never fired his weapons in anger. The delegates watched as the tiny human ship positioned itself directly in front of the enormous Vorthan fleet. It was like watching a small bird trying to stop a hurricane. "Admiral?" Thane's voice filled the hall as the hologram played the recorded conversation. His voice was deep and commanding, the voice of someone used to being obeyed without question. "Attention, human vessel," Thane said. "You are blocking the path of the Vorthan Imperial fleet. Stand down immediately and prepare to receive our terms for your surrender." Captain Miller's response came through clearly. His voice was calm and steady, without any trace of fear. "Admiral Thane, this is Captain Miller of the Earth ship Defiant. You are entering human space without permission. We ask you to turn your fleet around and leave peacefully." Several delegates in the hall made sounds of amazement. Human captain was actually telling a Vorthan admiral to leave. It seemed impossible. Thane's laugh could be heard in the recording. "Captain Miller, you are facing 500 warships with a single exploration vessel. Surely you can see that resistance is pointless. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly." Admiral Miller replied, "Humanity appreciates your offer, but we must decline. We will not join your empire. Please leave our space before this situation gets worse for everyone involved." Krell paused the recording and looked around the hall. Noticed that Captain Miller did not threaten us. He did not boast about hidden weapons or secret allies. He simply asked us to leave and warned that things might get worse. At the time, we thought he was bluffing. The recording continued. Admiral Thane's voice became harder, more threatening. "Captain Miller, I am giving you one final chance. Surrender your vessel and tell your people to prepare for integration into the Vorthan Empire. This is your last warning." Captain Miller was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was sad, but determined. "Admiral Thane, I am sorry it has come to this. Please know that we tried to avoid this outcome. The responsibility for what happens next is yours alone." "What could possibly happen next?" Thane demanded. "You have one small ship against my entire fleet." Miller's final words were quiet but clear. "Admiral, you are about to learn something about humans that I wish you never had to know. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we never, ever stop." The hologram showed what happened next. Admiral Thane ordered his weapons to fire. Dozens of energy beams struck the small human ship. The Defiant shields lasted only seconds before collapsing. The ship itself was torn apart in less than 5 minutes. All 200 crew members died instantly. "We expected this to be the end of human resistance," Krell said quietly. One ship destroyed, 200 casualties, by galactic standards. It was barely even a skirmish. We prepared to move on to the human colony world and begin the conquest. But something strange began happening on the hologram. Instead of the expected silence after their victory, space around the Vorthan fleet suddenly filled with signals. Hundreds of human ships throughout their space began broadcasting on every frequency. Every human vessel in their territory started transmitting at the same time, Krell explained. Cargo ships, research vessels, passenger transports, mining platforms, space stations. Everything with a human crew began sending the same message. The hologram showed the content of the transmissions. Lists of names appeared, with photographs and personal information. The 200 crew members of the Defiant were shown one by one, their faces, their ages, their families, their hopes and dreams. James Miller, age 42, husband to Lisa, father to Emma, the transmission said. Robert Chen, age 28, engaged. To Maria Santos, David Kim, age 35, father to twin boys, Tom and Jerry. The list went on and on. Every single person who had died was remembered by name, with details about their lives and the people who loved them. They were not just broadcasting to other humans, Krell said. They were broadcasting to us as well. They wanted us to know exactly who we had killed. They wanted us to see their faces and understand that these were real people with real families. But the transmissions did not stop with the names of the dead. It also included detailed information about every Vorthan who had participated in the attack. Admiral Thane's personal history, his family, his homeworld, the names and details of his officers, even the crew members who had fired the weapons. How did they know so much about us? Asked the bear-like delegate from the Ursine Confederacy. Krell's expression was grim. We still do not fully understand how they gathered such detailed intelligence so quickly. What we do know is that within hours, every human in the galaxy had complete files on every Vorthan who had killed their people. The transmissions ended with a simple message that was repeated over and over. We will remember. We will find you. We'll hunt you down. Justice will be served. Admiral Thane was not impressed. Empty threats from a defeated enemy, he told his officers. Let them broadcast their anger. Words cannot hurt us. The hologram showed the Vorthan fleet moving toward the human colony world of New Boston. The planet had 3 million human inhabitants and minimal defenses. It should have been an easy conquest. The attack on New Boston went exactly as planned, Krell said. Our ships destroyed their orbital defenses in minutes. Our ground forces landed and took control of all major cities within a week. Million humans were either killed or enslaved. We celebrated another victory. But even as the Vorthons celebrated, something was happening in deep space that none of them noticed. Human ships were moving with purpose unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. We thought the conquest was over, Krell continued. Reported to High Command that human space was now part of the Empire. Admiral Thane was promoted and given command of an even larger fleet. We moved on to our next target. The hologram showed Admiral Thane's flagship 3 weeks later, alone, on what should have been a routine patrol mission. The massive warship was traveling through empty space, far from any inhabited systems. Suddenly, a small blip appeared on their sensors. A single ship was approaching from the direction of former human space. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself, Thane commanded. The response came through clearly.
Admiral Thane?
This is Rick Turner. I am here for Captain Miller. The ship that appeared on their screens was not a warship. It was a converted mining vessel, barely armed, clearly not built for combat. It was piloted by a single human who should have been no threat to a massive Vorthan battleship. You are in Vorthan space without permission, Thane said. Surrender. Immediately, or be destroyed. Rick Turner's voice was calm and steady, just like Captain Miller's had been. Admiral Captain James Miller had a daughter named Emma. She asked me to deliver a message to the man who killed her father. The message is simple. We found you. One converted mining ship against my flagship? It's a suicide. Yes, Turner agreed. It probably is. But Admiral, you need to understand something about humans. We are not trying to win a war. We are trying to deliver justice. And we will. Keep coming until justice is served. What happened next would haunt Admiral Thane for the rest of his short life. Turner's ship attacked the flagship, not trying to destroy it, but targeting specific systems. The mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids proved surprisingly effective at disabling engines and weapons. Turner's ship was destroyed within minutes, but not before it had crippled the flagship's ability to move or fight effectively as Admiral Thane's crew worked desperately to repair their ship. More human vessels began arriving, all converted civilian ships, all piloted by individuals who calmly announced which crew member of the Defiant they were there to avenge.
This is
Sarah Johnson. I am here for Robert Chen. This is Mike Wilson. I am here for David Kim. This is Lisa Mill. Part 3. The hunt begins. Ambassador Krell continued his story as the hologram showed. Admiral Thane's flagship surrounded by human ships. The great Vorthon warship, which had destroyed the Defiant so easily just weeks before, now sat helpless in space with its engines damaged and weapons offline. What we had mistaken for scattered human settlements, Krell said to the assembled delegates, were actually parts of a vast network that connected every human in the galaxy. When the Defiant was destroyed, every human everywhere knew about it within hours. The hologram changed to show the human communication network. Lines of light connected human worlds, space stations, and ships across thousands of light years. It was not a military network. It was something much more dangerous. It was a network built for sharing information about their people. They called it the Memorial Network, Krell explained. Every human who died was remembered. Every human who was born was recorded. Every human who moved from one world to another was tracked. Not by their government or military, but by ordinary people who cared about each other. Admiral Thane's flagship was now completely surrounded by converted human civilian ships. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, passenger transports, research ships, all of them modified with whatever weapons their crews could find. None of them were designed for war, but all of them were piloted by humans with a single purpose. They were not trying to destroy the flagship, Krell said. They were trying to capture Admiral Thane alive. Each human pilot announced which crew. Member of the Defiant, they were there to avenge. They spoke the names of the dead like prayers. The hologram showed Lisa Miller's ship, a small passenger transport that had been converted with mining lasers. Her voice came through clearly as she spoke to the disabled flagship. Admiral Thane, this is Lisa Miller. You killed my husband, James. He was a good man who never hurt anyone. He had a daughter who will grow up without her father because of you. I am here to take you back to Earth, to face justice. Admiral Thane's response was full of anger and confusion. This is madness. You cannot defeat the Vorthan Empire with converted civilian ships. We are not trying to defeat your empire, Lisa Miller replied calmly. We are trying to arrest you for murder. There is a difference. More human ships continued to arrive. One was piloted by someone who had known one of the Defiant's crew members, or knew someone who had known them, or simply felt that justice needed to be served. They came from across human space, leaving their jobs and families to join the hunt. This was our first glimpse of something we had never seen before, Krell told the delegates. Humans do not fight wars for territory or resources or political power. They fight for each other, and when they decide that justice must be served, they do not stop until it is done. The battle around Admiral Thane's flagship lasted for 4 days. Not because the humans could not capture it quickly, but because they kept getting reinforcements. Every few hours, more converted civilian ships would arrive, piloted by humans who had traveled from distant worlds just to participate in the hunt. By the 4th day, Krell continued, Admiral Thane's entire fleet had been systematically dismantled. Not destroyed, dismantled. The humans disabled every ship, captured every crew member, and collected detailed evidence of their crimes. Holograms showed the aftermath. Dozens of Vorthan warships floating helpless in space. Their crews taken prisoner by humans who treated them with surprising kindness. The humans fed their prisoners, gave them medical care, and explained carefully what was going to happen to them. You will be taken to Earth, the humans told their prisoners. You will be given fair trials. You will be allowed to defend your actions. But you will face justice for the murder of 200 innocent people. Admiral Thane himself was captured when Lisa Miller's team finally broke through the flagship's defenses. The great military leader who had conquered dozens of worlds was taken alive by the widow of a man he had killed. I am not a warrior, Lisa Miller told him, as he was led away in chains. I am a teacher. I taught children on a colony world before. You destroyed my life, but you killed my husband, and now I will make sure you answer for what you have done. But Admiral Thane's capture was just the beginning. The hologram showed what was happening across Vorthon space at the same time. Every soldier, every officer, every crew member who had participated in the attack on human space was being systematically hunted down by humans who somehow knew exactly where to find them. How did they know where we were? Asked the bear-like delegate from the Ursine Confederacy. Krell's expression was grim. It was the most terrifying part. The humans had somehow identified every single person involved in the attack and had tracked them to their current locations. Soldiers who had been transferred to distant postings, officers who had been promoted and moved to different fleets, even crew members who had left military service and returned to civilian life. The hologram showed a Vorthan soldier named Drac, who had been part of the ground forces that conquered New Boston. He was now living quietly on his home world, working as a farmer and trying to forget the war. Thought he was safe. Then Sarah Chen arrived. She was a human merchant who had somehow tracked Drac to his small farm on the edge of Vorthon space. She knocked on his door politely and introduced herself. "Hello, Drac," she said calmly. "My name is Sarah Chen. 3 months ago, you killed my brother Robert during the invasion of New Boston. I am here to take you back to face trial for his murder." Drac was surrounded by his family and friends. Was armed. Was on his own world. Thousands of light years from human space. He should have been completely safe. But Sarah Chen had come alone in a small trading ship, and she had detailed records of everything Drac had done during the war. She knew which building he had destroyed, which civilians he had killed, and which orders he had followed. She had witness statements, video recordings, and physical evidence. "I do not want to hurt you or your family," Sarah told him. "I just want you to come with me and face justice. If you refuse, I will wait. We'll come. We will keep coming until you agree to face trial." "This is impossible," Drac said. "How did you find me? How do you know what I did?" Sarah Chen's answer was simple. "We remember everything. We record everything. We share everything. When you killed Robert, you became part of our history. And our history never goes away." The same scene was playing out across the entire Vorthan Empire. Humans were appearing everywhere, tracking down war criminals with an efficiency that terrified the Vorthon military leadership. They did not come as conquerors or invaders. They came as hunters, focused entirely on specific individuals. "We're not trying to destroy our empire," Krell explained. "They were trying to arrest specific people for specific crimes. They had lists of names, detailed evidence, and an endless supply of volunteers willing to travel across the galaxy to serve justice." The hologram showed Commander Vec, who had been the weapons officer on Admiral Thane's flagship. He was the one who had actually fired the shots that destroyed the Defiant. He had been transferred to a secret military base in the deepest part of Vorthan space, surrounded by multiple layers of security. A human teenager named Tom Miller found him there. Tom was James Miller's nephew, a 17-year-old boy who had never been in a fight in his life. He had somehow infiltrated the most secure military facility in the Vorthan Empire, walked past dozens of guards, and knocked on Vec's door. "Commander Vec," Tom said politely. "I am Tom Miller. You killed my Uncle James. I am here to escort you to your trial." The security footage showed what happened next. Commander Vec, a trained military officer, tried to fight the human boy, but Tom was not alone. He had detailed files on every guard in the facility, every officer on the base, and every crime they had committed. "If you try to stop me," Tom told the guards, "I will add your names to our list." "Do you really want to become part of this hunt?" The guards, who had been watching their fellow soldiers disappear one by one as humans tracked them down across the Empire, simply stepped aside. "This was the moment," Krell said, "when we realized that we were not fighting a war. We were being hunted by an entire species that had decided we were criminals. And unlike a war, which can be won or lost, a hunt does not end until the prey is caught." The hologram showed the current status of the hunt. Red dots marked the locations of Vorthan war criminals who had been captured. Blue dots showed humans who were actively hunting. The map was covered with both colors, spreading across the entire galaxy. In 6 months, Krell said, the humans had captured over 3,000 Vorthan military personnel. Not killed, captured. They wanted every single person who had participated in the attack to face trial. They wanted justice, not revenge. But the most terrifying part was still to come. The hologram showed a human woman named Kate Jones, who was hunting a Vorthan officer who had tried to hide by changing his identity and fleeing to a distant galaxy. The humans followed him, Krell said quietly. They followed him to another galaxy. They spent 2 years traveling through space to find one person who had killed one of their people. When they found him, they brought him back to face trial. The delegates in the hall were amply silent. The idea of a species that would hunt criminals across multiple galaxies was beyond anything they had ever imagined. That was when we finally understood. KR Part 4. The persistence, the hologram above the Galactic Council Hall, showed the response of the Vorthon Empire to the human hunting campaign. Massive fleets were mobilized, entire star systems were fortified, and the Empire's most powerful weapons were deployed. The Vorthons were no longer treating this as a simple police action against primitive raiders. High Command finally understood that we were facing something unprecedented. Ambassador Krell told the assembled delegates. We mobilized our entire military force, over 10,000 warships, the largest fleet in our history. Surely, we thought, overwhelming firepower would stop these persistent hunters. The hologram showed the great Vorthon armada spreading across their space. Battle stations were constructed at every major system. Patrol fleets scoured empty space looking for human ships. The Empire had transformed from a conquering force into a defensive fortress. All because of converted civilian vessels piloted by determined humans. General Morak was put in charge of the operation, Krell continued. He was our greatest military strategist, the architect of 50 successful campaigns. His plan was simple: destroy every human ship that entered Vorthon space and kill every human who came hunting our people. The first major battle took place near the Vorthon world of Kelos. A human hunting party had tracked down Colonel Zed, who had commanded the ground forces during the massacre on New Boston. The hunting party consisted of 12 converted civilian ships, led by a woman named Beth Santos, whose parents had died in the invasion. We sent a full battle fleet to intercept them, Krell said. 50 warships against 12 converted civilian vessels. It should have been a quick victory. A hologram showed the battle. The human ships were completely outgunned and outnumbered. Within an hour, all 12 vessels had been destroyed. Not a single human survived the encounter, he celebrated, Krell admitted. Finally, we thought we had shown these humans the price of challenging the Vorthon Empire. We expected this decisive victory to discourage further hunting expeditions. The celebration was short-lived. Within days, more human ships arrived to continue the hunt for Colonel Zed. This time, there were 24 vessels, each one piloted by someone who had known one of the humans killed in the previous battle. They were not discouraged by the deaths of their people, Krell explained. Instead, they were motivated by them. Each human who died hunting our war criminals became another name on their memorial lists. And for each new name, more humans volunteered to join the hunt. The pattern repeated itself across Vorthon's space. Every time they destroyed a human hunting party, 2 more would appear to take its place. The humans seemed to have an endless supply of volunteers willing to die in pursuit of justice. This was when we began to understand the true horror of what we were facing, Krell said. We were not fighting an army or a fleet. We were fighting an entire civilization that had weaponized itself. The hologram showed human space during this period. Ordinary people were converting their ships, training with weapons, and volunteering for hunting missions. Teachers, doctors, farmers, engineers, all of them were willing to leave their peaceful lives to hunt down Vorthon war criminals. A human merchant named Carl Reed exemplified their persistence, Krell continued. He was hunting Captain Vex, who had commanded one of the ships that destroyed the Defiant. Reed's cargo ship was destroyed in battle, but he survived in an escape pod. The hologram showed Reed's escape pod floating in space after his ship was destroyed. Instead of calling for rescue, Reed had somehow managed to send a message to other humans, giving them the exact location of Captain Vex's hiding place. Before he died, Reed died alone in space, Krell said. But his sacrifice allowed 3 other human hunting parties to find their target. His final message was simple. Found him. Grid, reference 47 Delta. Tell my wife I love her. Continue the hunt. Within a week, Captain Vex was captured by a hunting party led by Reed's own wife, Maria, who had converted her family's passenger shuttle into a pursuit vessel. We tried everything to stop them, Krell continued. We offered massive rewards for information about human hunting parties. We threatened to destroy any world that helped them, even tried to negotiate directly with human leadership. The hologram showed a meeting between Vorthon diplomats and human representatives. The The humans listened politely to offers of peace treaties, territorial concessions, and war reparations. "What do you want?" the lead Vorthan diplomat had asked. "Territory, resources, technology? Name your price for ending this hunt." The human representative, an elderly woman named Grace Park, had answered simply, "We want our dead back. When you can return the 200 people you murdered, we will consider stopping the hunt." "But that is impossible," the Vorthan diplomat had protested. "The dead cannot be returned." Grace Park had nodded sadly. "Exactly. So the hunt continues until justice is served." The Vorthons tried hiding their war criminals in the most remote parts of the galaxy. They created false identities, plastic surgery, even memory modification. Nothing worked. The humans always found their targets. Commander Lisa Park became the symbol of human persistence, Krell said. She led what they called the 100-Year Hunt, a systematic campaign to track down every single Vorthan involved in the original attack. The hologram showed Lisa Park, a middle-aged woman who had been a peaceful scientist before the war. She had converted her research vessel into a hunting ship and dedicated her life to pursuing justice. Park spent 30 years hunting General Morak, the architect of our anti-human strategy, Krell explained. She followed him across 17 different star systems, through 3 galaxies, and finally cornered him on a small mining planet at the edge of known space. When Park finally found General Morak, he was an old man living under a false name as a simple miner. She walked into his small dwelling and sat down across from him. "General Morak," she said calmly, "I am Lisa Park. 30 years ago you ordered the deaths of innocent people. I am here to take you home to face trial." Morak had aged and changed his appearance, but Park recognized him immediately. She had spent 3 decades studying his face, his habits, his psychology. She knew him better than he knew himself. "How did you find me?" Morak asked. "We never stopped looking," Park replied. "We never stopped looking." When Park died of old age 10 years later, her daughter Jenny took over the hunt. When Jenny died, her son Michael continued the mission. 3 generations of the Park family dedicated their lives to hunting down war criminals. Passing the responsibility from parent to child like a sacred duty, this was the moment we truly understood what we were. Fighting, Krell said. It's not soldiers or warriors, but ordinary people who had made justice their life's work. People who would pass their missions to their children and grandchildren if necessary. The hologram showed the human memorial walls that had been built on every human world. The names of the Defiance crew were carved in stone, along with the names of every human who had died in the subsequent hunting campaign. Each new name on their memorials created more hunters, Krell explained. The family members of the dead, their friends, even strangers who were moved by their sacrifice. The hunt was creating its own momentum, growing larger and more determined. With each passing year, the breaking point came when humans successfully penetrated the most secure facility in the Vorthan Empire. General Vex, the original architect of the invasion plan, had been hidden in a bunker deep underground on the Vorthon homeworld itself. Protected by thousands of guards and multiple layers of security, a human teenager named Amy Chen walked through. All of it. She was 19 years old, the great-granddaughter of Robert Chen, who had died on the Defiant. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment, studying Vorthon, language, culture, military procedures. Amy simply walked up to the main gate of the facility and presented the guards. With detailed files on every atrocity each of them had committed during their careers. "I am here for General Vex," she announced calmly. "You can step aside and let me pass, or you can add your names to our hunting list." The guards, demoralized by years of watching their fellow soldiers disappear one by one, simply stepped aside and let her pass. Amy walked through 17 security checkpoints, past hundreds of armed guards and directly into General Vex's private quarters. At each checkpoint, she politely explained who she was there for and why. At each checkpoint, the guards let her pass. The human girl was not armed, Krell said. She carried no weapons, no explosives, no advanced technology. She carried only files documenting crimes and a determination that could not be stopped. When Amy finally stood before General Vex, The old Vorthon general looked at her with a mixture of fear and resignation. "How many of you are there?" he asked. Amy's answer was simple. "All of us. Every human in the galaxy will hunt you until justice is served. We never forget. We never stop. We never give up." Part 5. The new Galactic Order Ambassador Krell stood for the Galactic Council as the hologram showed the final collapse of the Vorthan Empire. What had once been the most powerful military force in the galaxy was now a collection of scattered worlds, their fleets destroyed or abandoned, their leaders either captured or in hiding. 47 years, Krell said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. It took the humans exactly 47 years to hunt down every single Vorthan who had participated in the attack on their people. Not most of them, not the important ones. Every single one. The hologram displayed a massive list of names, thousands, of Vorthan military personnel who had been systematically tracked down and captured by human hunting parties. Next to each name was the date of their capture and the name of the human who had brought them to justice. General Vex was the last one, Krell continued. When Amy Chen walked into our most secure facility and took him away, it marked the end of the hunt. The humans had achieved their goal. Justice had been served. The delegates watched in stunned silence as the hologram showed what had happened to former Vorthan space. Instead of being conquered and occupied by human forces, something completely unexpected had occurred. The humans did not take our territory, Krell explained. They did not enslave our people or steal our resources. They did something that no conquering species in galactic history had ever done. They gave us back our freedom. The hologram showed human ships leaving Vorthon space as soon as the last war criminal had been captured. Took nothing with them except their prisoners and the satisfaction of a job completed. But they left behind something that will ensure we never forget this lesson, Krell said. They built memorials. The hologram showed the memorial worlds that humans had constructed throughout former Vorthan space. 200 planets, each one dedicated to a single crew member who had died on the Defiant. Each world had been transformed into a beautiful garden planet, with museums, parks, and monuments celebrating the life of one individual human being. James Miller Memorial World, Krell read from the hologram. A peaceful planet where children from across the galaxy come to learn about exploration, discovery, and the value of every single life. Lisa Miller herself tends the gardens there, teaching visitors about her husband's dreams and hopes. The scale of the memorial project was staggering. Humans had spent decades terraforming barren worlds, building cities that served no military or economic purpose, creating places of beauty and remembrance that would last for thousands of years. They could have built military bases, Krell pointed out. They could have established colonies or mining operations. Instead, they built monuments to the dead that serve as reminders to the living. The hologram showed visitors from dozens of different species walking through the memorial gardens, reading about human history and the price of attacking innocent people. Children played in parks dedicated to humans they had never met, learning about the importance of justice and remembrance. Robert Chen Memorial World features the largest library in this sector of the galaxy, Krell continued. It contains detailed records of every crime committed during the war, every trial that followed, and every act of justice that was served. The humans want future generations to understand exactly what happened and why. But the memorial worlds were not the only change the humans had brought to the galaxy. The hologram showed the new political structure that had emerged from the collapse of the Vorthan Empire. The humans helped us establish the Vorthan Federation, Krell explained, a democratic government chosen by our own people, free from the military dictatorship that had ruled us for millennia, taught us about concepts we had never considered, individual rights, fair trials, peaceful resolution of conflicts. The transformation was remarkable. The species that had been the galaxy's most aggressive conquerors were now known for their peaceful diplomacy and respect for other civilizations. We are no longer the Vorthan Empire, Krell said. We are the Vorthan Federation, and we have spent the last 50 years trying to make amends for the crimes committed in our name. The hologram showed Vorthan peacekeeping forces working alongside other species to resolve conflicts without violence. Former Vorthan military officers now served as mediators and diplomats, using their knowledge of warfare to prevent wars rather than start them. The humans taught us that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when not to fight, Krell said. They showed us that justice is more powerful than conquest, and that remembrance is more lasting than empire. But the most profound change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity itself. The hologram showed human explorers and traders moving freely through space, welcomed on worlds that had once feared all alien contact. The human protection protocols, Krell announced, were established by a unanimous vote of every major civilization in the galaxy. The rules are simple and absolute. Do not attack humans, do not threaten humans, do not harm humans in any way. The protocols were not based on fear of human military might, but on respect for human determination. Every species in the galaxy had learned the lesson of the Vorthan Empire, that humans did not wage war for territory or resources, but for justice, and that their pursuit of justice would never end. The humans have become the galaxy's unofficial peacekeepers, Krell explained. Not through conquest or intimidation, but through reputation. When conflicts arise between species, they call for human mediators. When criminals flee justice, they ask for human hunters. When innocents need protection, they request human guardians. The hologram showed human diplomatic missions working to resolve disputes between alien civilizations. Former soldiers and hunters now served as judges and investigators, bringing the same relentless determination to the pursuit of peace that they had once brought to the pursuit of war criminals. Captain Sarah Johnson, who once hunted Vorthan war criminals across 3 galaxies, now leads the Galactic Justice Commission, Krell said. She uses the same investigative skills that made her such an effective hunter to solve crimes and prevent conflicts throughout known space. Transformation of human society itself was equally remarkable. The species that had spent decades hunting their enemies had channeled that same energy into building a better galaxy for everyone. The memorial network that once tracked war criminals now connects species across the galaxy, Krell explained. It has become a vast library of knowledge, a communication system that allows instant contact between distant worlds and a database of galactic history that ensures no crime is ever forgotten. The hologram showed the network in operation, millions of sentient beings sharing information, collaborating on projects, and working together to solve problems that no single species could handle alone. The humans have created something unprecedented, Krell said. A galactic civilization based not on conquest or dominance, but on mutual respect and shared remembrance. They have shown us that the greatest victory is not defeating your enemies, but turning them into friends. The memorial worlds continued to serve their purpose, welcoming visitors from across the galaxy who came to learn about the cost of aggression and the value of peace. Schools were built on every world, teaching children about the importance of justice and the power of persistence. Every year, millions of young beings visit the James Miller Memorial World, Krell said. They learn about a human explorer who died trying to prevent a war, and they carry that lesson back to their own worlds. His death and the hunt that followed has probably prevented 1,000 wars and saved billions of lives. The Galactic Council chamber was completely silent as Krell concluded his presentation. The hologram showed the current state of the galaxy peaceful, prosperous, and united under principles that humans had established, not through conquest but through example. This is why I stand before you today with this warning, Krell said, his voice carrying the weight of 50 years of regret and learning. The humans do not want to rule the galaxy. They do not want to conquer other species or impose their will on alien civilizations. They want to explore, to learn, to trade, and to live in peace. He paused, looking around the hall at delegates from hundreds of different worlds and species. But they have also made it clear that any attack on their people will result in a hunt that will not end until justice is served. They do not make this threat to intimidate us. They make it as a promise to their own people that no human death will go unpunished, no matter how long it takes or how far they must travel. The final image on the hologram was simple but powerful, a human child placing flowers on a memorial grave. while her grandmother told her stories about the people who had died to protect their freedom. Remember this lesson, Krell concluded. Do not attack the humans. They never stop hunting.